Talk to Me, the new A24 horror that got the Australian A24 horror that was released by the two YouTubers, and that fact has now become redundant. I know it's been released by YouTubers, like we don't need to. It's become the Interstellar fact.
It's
really
the beat to shit below 6 feet below ground fact of a movie that
it's
we
all
need.
of them.
Did you guys know Michael B. Jordan used a lot of anime influence in Creed 3?
It's the same shit. It's the same shit.
It's one of those.
Me and George watched it. Obviously, when did you watch it, George? I think it came out the week before last. I watched it on the 28th.
Yeah, I watched it last week. I don't remember when. Maybe Thursday. I think Thursday.
I watched it Friday.
Yeah, it's like a week ago.
Yeah. Obviously, to give you a brief synopsis before we talk on rough things, we always take too much of your time on this. Because I think, especially if you want to go into spoilers, George, we can.
Because there's not much to spoil. I feel. I mean, not really. It's an A24 horror film. You kind of know what you're getting yourself into.
Although, do you? Because I would argue it's better. Well, than some anyway.
Rather.
But when a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. Me and George, obviously, big horror guys in general. I know George liked it. So if you want to give your brief thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I really liked it. I know not an original thought, but I do think this is the best horror movie of the year. Not that I think it's been a particularly strong year for horror. But even outside horror, I think this is sitting at my 7th place ranking of the year, or maybe 7th place ranking of the year right now. And we recorded the episode with the Raiders boys like a few days earlier, and I wish we did it after because I would have loved to have this in my top 10 for that episode. But no, the one thing I loved about this movie was just how unique and how refreshing it felt, which really just kept it unpredictable. Like I never knew which way the story was going to go, which I absolutely love. A lot of times, especially with like, these Insidious type movies, these jump scare horror movies, you kind of, you know, when the scares are coming, you know exactly what to expect. But Talk to Me really kept me on my toes, both from like, the perspective of not knowing when the next scare is going to come, and then just story wise, I really like could not predict where this story was going to go, and that's one thing I really loved about this movie. It just felt so unique and so refreshing, and then the horror was just, again, and we were talking about this, the two of us the other week. It really is not as scary as I think a lot of people are making it out to be. Like I truly, I'm not even just saying this because I want Tyler and Cam to watch a horror movie. I really don't think you guys would have a problem with this at all. There were like disturbing scenes here and there, but those disturbing scenes weren't like frightening. They were more so just like, that's disgusting. And that's another part of the movie that I absolutely loved. Like, we'll get, we'll whenever we put our spoiler flag up, that's when we'll talk about the scene specifically. But yeah, there were scenes here and there that just like had my jaw on the floor. This was also such a fun theater experience. Like my theater was into it. They were like very audible, which I know, Seth, you don't love, but like I like it when it's a film that allows it to be like a Barbarian. Exactly. It was just a lot of like a lot of reactionary like audibles, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, I thought I went with a 4 out of 5, and I know we saw this on Letterboxd. A lot of our mutuals are right there at a 4 out of 5, like a lot of them. And it's like across the board, it's just the most consistently above average horror film I've watched. Like it never like exceeds to like the point of like being truly great, but it never dips down to a point where I'm like, okay, that was lackluster. Like everything across the board was just consistently good, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, overall, I went with a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. It was unpredictable. It was frightening. It was disgusting to look at times. The story kept me on my toes. The acting performances hit. The comedy, I swear, the first half hour of this movie was a horror comedy, and it worked like crazy. I was loving it. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for me. It's in my top 10 of the year right now. I don't know, outside of like Maxine, I really don't know the lineup of horror movies we're getting for the rest of the year. But
Is that this year? Well, not
yeah,
for us anyway, but
I mean, for you, maybe not, but for us, I think Maxine is definitely this year. But either way, I'll be hard pressed if I find a horror film this year that I like better than Talk to Me.
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I actually looked at my things before this. I think this is my highest rated horror of not only this year, but last year also.
Ooh, that's
I
now
think
I want to check that actually.
I'm pretty sure it is. I've waited to the 2020s. It's very much at the higher end of horror, unless you count like Bones and All, which I kind of don't, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't count that as a horror.
Bit of a weird one. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I think, like you said, it was refreshing, it was original, it was silly, which I liked, especially in the first half, and it had these like absurd moments. And like you said, I didn't find it particularly scary. And I think that Tyler and Cam would be fine with it, and most people out there who aren't well versed in horror and kind of want to ease the way into it, I think this is the perfect point to do so. It's more on like capturing the feeling of loneliness, obviously from the loss of a loved one, which isn't really a spoiler. You can see that in some of the synopsis, stuff like that. And it's just it's kind of confrontational, creepy. There are some really disturbing and weird sequences. I don't even know if it's disturbing, kind of just weird. You'll know which scenes I'm on about, and just there are some scenes which kind of are so self-aware with how silly it's being. George, I'll put one over to you in a second, but I'll just say the feet scene, for example.
Yeah, that was so funny. I'm surprised that's the one you went with.
Well, there's a few, to be fair, but that's just
there's one with a dog that really stands out.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that one as well. But it was just impressive because it's even more impressive because it was a full-length Dara's whole debut, especially horrors, man. Like some of them are so bad. You watch 5 horrors, 4 of them are going to be bad nowadays. Modern horrors going in a trend that personally I've not enjoyed as much. But I think this really captured some originality. It took a supernatural spin in a new direction that I haven't seen much of before. It wasn't anything revolutionary, like you mentioned. Like I wouldn't. It's not something I think is incredible, but I think it's very, very good and a really solid debut. I also think that it's just unquestionably impactful. I don't think the commentary offered, with like the loneliness and stuff like that, it's nothing you've seen it before. But it did it in a way where it was just effective. And I also thought that the main girl, Sophie Wilde,
she was great,
really, really good.
Yeah, she was really great.
And I did actually have a look into her kind of filmography, I guess. And she's only actually been in previously one film. And then she's got 2 films coming out this year, which I don't really know what they are, but she's only ever acted in one film prior to this. I believe what it says in Letterboxd anyway. And that makes it even more impressive. And I actually think a lot of the actors were pretty, like most of them, I haven't got much credits or anything like that. They were almost amateurs.
Which makes it like even more impressive that like there really wasn't like a false note in the acting. Like everyone across the board. Oh, who?
I nearly screamed when I saw Eowyn on my screen.
Who?
Eowyn from Lord of the Rings. Eowyn.
Which one was she?
She was the mom.
Bro, that's where I knew her from.
Yeah. When I saw her on the
I
screen,
swear to God, during the movie, she popped up on the screen, and I looked at Sophie, and I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" I was like, "I know that face somewhere."
Because that was like the one, I guess, high-end reputable actor. You know what I mean? Like
she was funny. She had the one line where she was talking to her son and her son's friend, and she was like, "If I catch you with alcohol, I'm gonna punch you in the face."
Yeah, she was funny. I really liked her. We can touch on some like spoilers, I guess. There's not really too much to spoil. You kind of know.
I'm looking right now. Sorry to interrupt. I'm looking right now. I think from this decade, I think I would have this as my 5th ranked horror film. Because
really?
I would have Nope and Malignant at 1 and 2, in my humble opinion. And then I think the only other ones I would take above it are Watcher and Mad God.
Oh shit, yeah, Mad God. I always forget that's like horror. Yeah,
like my other 4 out of 5 is The Menu. I think I'd still take Talk to Me.
I wouldn't even say that. It's a horror.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider The Menu a horror. X and Pearl, I would still take Talk to Me. Last Night in Soho, The Black Phone, Scream 5 and 6. Yeah, I think I would take Talk to Me above all of those. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias. I'd be curious to see how this holds up on rewatch, but right now I'd have it as my 5th ranked horror movie of the decade.
I'd have it 4th. I'm just looking now. I'd have Titan first, then I'd have.
I still haven't watched Titan.
It's fucking great. Then I'd have Bones and All second. The Night House first.
Never watched that.
Very good. I think it's on Hulu for you guys. You'd really like it. And then, I'd have it 4th. So that's a huge compliment, really. A huge compliment. Is there any specific scenes you wanted to touch on? I assume that there will be.
I mean, yeah. Let's all right, let's put our spoiler warning out now. So obviously we've seen the movie. Spoiler alert. The first scene that like genuinely like put my jaw on the ground was when the little brother was possessed, obviously, and out of nowhere this dude starts beating the fuck out of his face on anything within
crazy.
It was, and the thing that, and it's going to sound fucked up that I'm saying the thing I loved, but the thing I loved about that scene is that like the camera doesn't move. Like you watch this kid just beat the shit out of himself. Like the camera, there's no like techniques to like make it look real when it's not. It's you're looking at it and it's gross. And then the end of that scene when like the sister tries to put her hand there, that like I felt that in my hand. Like I felt that
when he headbutts straight on the hand.
Yeah. Like I felt that pain. And then same thing the next time he wakes up from the coma that he's in and he tries to fuck up the back of his head on that fucking steel wall or whatever it is in the hospital. Yeah. Disgusting. But that's also what I'm saying about this movie. Like, there are moments that are frightening. Like there are moments where I was like, damn, what the fuck is about to happen? But this movie is just more so like disturbing and like unpleasant to watch than it is like frightening in the way like an Insidious or a Conjuring is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like so obviously the we're in spoilers now, so I can say this. Obviously the main character basically lost her mom, and it's a whole thing about she when she first uses the summoning hands, she basically speaks to someone in the room who's been the mom is in someone in the room and she speaks to her mom, whatever. And then her friend's brother, who she's like really close to, use it, as George mentioned, doesn't go particularly well for him.
He goes
and he basically becomes possessed, and it's whole thing about he's basically in hospital now, and every time he wakes up, he's trying to kill himself. And it really relies on this like visceral, brutal imagery. And I do like how they put that in there, because I think a lot of horrors nowadays will shy away from it. You don't see much in terms of gore.
It's because I feel like a lot of horrors want to lean towards that PG-13 rating just to pull in larger audience members,
like Megan did.
Exactly, literally exactly like Megan did.
And I think that they kind of, like I said before, the issues of the whole thing about it is the medical mental consequences of losing a loved one, and kind of the isolation you feel and sadness, especially when the main character isn't really close to her dad. And the idea of that is something we've seen before, but it was executed well. But what I would say is the most impressive thing about this film to me is you wouldn't know this was a debut. It was technically really impressive.
Yeah, it was a very like competent film. Like there was no instances where I was like, that's very like amateur-esque. Like it really felt like either one, I knew it was a debut and it felt like they had just spent years perfecting this movie, or two, this wasn't a debut at all. This was two very experienced filmmakers. It had that sort of like feel to it, which I loved.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what they're going to do more, because they managed to combine the first act. There was some really funny moments in there. Like I'll go into one scene that really, the feet scene, and then you can say the dog scene. So that there is one sequence where they're basically they've come up from hospital, and the main character's ex-boyfriend, who is the boyfriend of the kid who's in hospital's sister, right? They basically go home together because I think he hasn't got anywhere to stay, so she invites him to her house. Not in like a a relationship way or anything like that, even though they still want to get it on.
They still got it.
And then there is a sequence where basically she falls asleep, and then What is it again now, Josh? Who comes to the room? I can't remember. Who is it?
Oh, it's just some old guy or some old girl, some
Yeah.
old woman.
No, yeah, that's it. Yeah. An old
Yeah.
woman comes in the dream.
Yeah,
And
like she wakes up and she thinks she's seeing this old woman like crawl across the floor.
Yeah, and then the old woman starts like sucking on this man's feet.
Sucking the shit out of this man's feet.
And then basically she's like awake. And then
finds out that she's the one.
Feet. And the guy's like, what are you doing? It's so
yeah, that was fucking disgusting.
That ruined me. If you want to say about the dog scene as well, Tuss.
I mean, the dog scene is so much fucking, I think, worse. The same guy. This guy's getting fucked around with left and right in this movie.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, the same guy who got his toes sucked at the beginning of the movie did the hand thing, and he like immediately falls to the ground and starts like dry humping the ground. And then as he's doing that, the dog comes up to him and like they start making out with each other.
Like,
and the camera, bro, again, the camera is on them, like really close to them. And I'm like 3 rows back staring up at this, like, gee, what the fuck am I watching right now?
That's kind of like what I like, though, is the fact that they don't shy away from being self-aware. Though
no, they went for it. They absolutely went for it.
Like a lot of this is silly. It's almost like I can't really think of another example now, but a lot of it is silly, like a Malignant, for example.
Yeah, it's very campy, but like there was enough like really frightening, disturbing sequences that like pulled this movie back to like being a great horror film as opposed to being like a great campy horror film.
Yeah, exactly. And they have actually, I don't know if you saw the news, they've already filmed a prequel for it.
Oh shit, I did not see that.
They've already filmed a prequel. It's pretty an early stage, but I think they've already filmed up in the midway through filming a prequel for Talk to Me on the basically the hand and the like the demons and stuff origin, which I think would be really interesting. And now I know what they can do. It makes me even more excited.
Now I'm even more excited. Now that I've seen the film and I'm like aware of these two guys and like how capable they are of like fucking me up mentally, I'm all for it. Whenever you're ready, I want to talk about the ending.
Go for it.
What happened? Did she jump into traffic, or did the sister push her into traffic? That was my first question out of the theater.
It's interesting because I think it's one of those I'd have to watch again, but I would assume that she jumped into traffic.
See, I don't know. I think the opposite. Because this, I don't know. Because the sister was sprinting down that hill because the girl was obviously about to throw her fucking brother into oncoming traffic. So, but it's just that was one of those like, yeah, go.
I was going to say that was the only way that she knew how and to find out how to save him.
Yeah, exactly.
Was to kill him and get the possession out of him.
Yeah.
But I don't know that
it's like one of those up for interpretation things where it's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she threw herself into traffic or if she was pushed or whatnot. But I loved that, like, there was no happy ending for her. Like, she's now dead and she is who people are going to be summoning when they use the hand.
Yeah, there's a lot to like look into. I think I would lean towards one way, but then again, I think it might be her dying's a reliever of what she's been going through.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Like, I could see her having decided to kill herself to like end her suffering, obviously not knowing that if she were to kill herself, she will just be on the other end of the hand now when people use it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, really, really good film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. I want to see it again. I really want to see it again. I want Victoria to watch it, honestly.
Yeah, I want Anna to watch it, but she never fucking will. There's literally zero chance. But obviously we say like, I recommend anyone who listens to this who isn't a horror aficionado still go and see it because it's not that.
It's really not. Yeah,
people are going to lie. It's the scariest film ever. Like, it's not.
You should err on the side of caution if you're like, if you get woozy or like you can't stomach like really disturbing.
Yeah, it's more
gore.
Yeah.
But like, there was one jump scare which really was effective when the dad started running at her. Also, dude,
that was good. That was a really good scene.
The scene when she puts a knife in her dad's throat, I saw that. It was like again, I say this about a lot of movies. It was like watching a car accident in slow motion.
Slow motion.
I
yeah.
knew exactly where this was going. Like
You
as the
could tell
dad
when it was, like,
was
different
coming in.
ones.
Yeah, there was two dads. As the real dad was coming into the room, I knew as I saw her going to grab the scissors, I was like, this poor man is about to catch the worst of this. And it just immediately she puts it right in his throat. And I was like, fuck, I knew that was coming.
That's what I mean, though. Like, even though part of it was of a predictable nature, it was still unquestionably effective in the way it was handled.
That was again another scene that my theater just audibly let out like a oh no.
I never get these experiences. Like, it's crazy. Barbarian's the only ever film.
Oh
ever.
Really, bro?
Yeah,
I had between Talk to Me and The Blackening, my theaters were like loud. They were audible. They were reacting to things.
No,
Which
I think I'd quite like that in a film like that. To be honest, it's different.
It worked. Not like an annoying like MCU movie where like people are like screaming and clapping and cheering. It's just like people are just reacting, which I loved.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely go and see it if you can. Me and George really enjoyed it. I give it a 4. George also gave it a 4, but we might go up, might go down and rewatch. We want to obviously have a look.